We are continuing our study on 4 spiritual dangers of ingratitude, because there really are dangers. It's not just a neutral issue. It's not just, that's just the way I am. There's dangers. But before we get to these last 2, the third and the fourth one, I want you to imagine a father and mother who had planned, prepared, decorated, and hosted a birthday party for their young son. They planned everything carefully. Balloons, games, big cake, the gift for all the kids who came. The children laughed, played, and enjoyed every moment. But as the party went on, the mother and father noticed something troubling. Their child, the one who had received the most gifts, eaten the most cake, and won the most games, began to complain. This isn't the flavor I wanted. Why didn't I get a bigger prize? I deserve another turn. I should have gotten the best gift. The father quietly said to another parent, it's amazing, the more he receives, the more he thinks he deserves. And then he added, he's enjoying everything but appreciating nothing. Well, that's what entitlement does. It blinds us to reality. It blinds us to God's grace. It convinces us that blessings from God are right. It turns gift into expectations. It makes gratitude disappear because you believe, I deserve this. I deserve. Entitlement in reality always silences thanksgiving, because there is no attitude of thanksgiving. There is none. It's just, what did you give me? It's this attitude, I deserve this. And so that's the third danger. It produces an entitled mindset. Because this mindset uses a word and really overuses a word. And that word is deserve. I deserve, and fill in the blank. And that's going to put us in a dangerous position, because when we start to think this way, we don't show gratitude, we show entitlement. That thinking leads to a demanding. It produces selfishness and is ugly and sinful thinking. The thinking that way slowly creeps in, and we don't even notice it's even happening. Could have been the very mindset behind the 9 out of the 10 lepers that Jesus healed in Luke 17:11 through 19. And they really shouldn't have had that mindset or attitude, because they would have been sent outside the city. Anywhere they went, they'd have to yell, unclean, unclean, unclean. And leprosy is not always what we think of today as leprosy. There's different diseases, skin diseases, that fall underneath that. Some were lifelong, others were short-term. But here that they would have to separate themselves. They went outside the camp in the community, away from their family, away from their friends. And so you would think that of all the people who would not have this mindset. But Luke 17:11 through 19 tells us that Jesus healed 10 lepers. While he was on his way to Jerusalem, he was passing between Samaria and Galilee. As he entered a village, 10 leprous men who stood at a distance met him, and they raised their voices, saying, Jesus, Master, have mercy on us. When he saw them, he said to them, Go and show yourselves to the priest. And as they were going, they were cleansed. Now one of them, when he saw that he had been healed, turned back, glorifying God with a loud voice. And he fell on his face at his feet, giving thanks to him. And he was a Samaritan. Then Jesus answered, said, Were there not 10 cleansed? But the 9, where are they? Was no one found who returned to give glory to God except this foreigner? And he said to him, Stand up and go. Your faith has made you well. Very well could have been that mindset of, I deserve this, of why 9 did not return and give thanks. They could have thought, I deserve God to heal me. It's my right. I didn't deserve getting leprosy to begin with, so God, I deserve to be healed. But in reality, do we deserve anything? When it comes down to it, do we really deserve anything? Are we entitled to anything? Well, there is something that we really are entitled to. And that is hell because of the wages of sin. The wages of sin. Romans 6:23 tells us the wages of sin is death. Death, eternal death. And then that's because of Romans 3:23. All have sinned and come short of the glory of God. There's none righteous, no, not one. And the sad thing is I see more and more people denying the reality of hell. Even those who are so-called believers who want to get onto social media and be a teacher and be accountable to no one for what they teach. I've seen it in men and women that get on there and they teach. They start talking about how I was a former pastor and I need to apologize about hell. And Jesus spoke about hell more than anything, more than money, more than heaven. He spoke about the reality of hell. And no one, and even I heard someone go as far as using a curse word, expletive, to describe that what we teach is a stupid idea on hell. But the Bible teaches the reality of hell. That is what we all deserve. And then, when God saves us by His grace, everything in life is far better than what we ever deserve. We don't deserve anything, and so the proper response is always, not sometimes, not most of the time, but always to give thanks. Always to give thanks. Because that's what Psalm 107 verse 1 tells you and I. Oh, give thanks to the Lord, for He is good, for His loving kindness is everlasting. Often you see in the Psalms that over and over again, give thanks to the Lord, for His loving kindness everlasting. In fact, there's a psalm that almost every verse, I think, except for one or two of them, has that here talk about His loving kindness is everlasting, and give thanks is implied. It's not repeated in every verse, but you can insert those words because it starts out that way, and you can start inserting give thanks. And that talks about what God has done, and for His loving kindness is everlasting. And so we cannot have this entitled attitude, this entitled mindset, that it's so easy to recognize in others that we don't like it if we help someone and then they don't even show a lack of appreciation. They show a lack of appreciation. They don't give thanks. That here it comes across, it communicates entitlement. But we have to examine ourselves also that am I expressing an attitude of thanksgiving to God and to others, or am I expressing an attitude of entitlement that, hey, I deserve that? Because that is the attitude of a lot of people. It's in the church. The reality is that is a worldly mindset. That's the way of the world, and so it should not creep into a Christian's thinking, but it does at times, where we can become guilty of that. But we need to show appreciation and thanksgiving, and that brings us to the fourth danger. And this builds upon, because that's what it leads to. Entitlement leads to a lack of appreciation. Gratitude produces a lack of appreciation. They really go hand in hand. It's what it is. In order for someone to be ungrateful or to show a lack of appreciation, what do they have to do? Sometimes it is this, as I've been stressing and speaking of, this demanding or entitlement attitude, with the attitude that I deserve this, as in the last danger. But the reality is that you don't have to do anything. Nothing. That's why I said when people don't say anything, it really shows a lack of appreciation. It does come across as a mindset of entitlement. I mean, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to say thank you. You don't show appreciation. All you do is nothing. Why? Because of that entitlement. I mean, could it be because it didn't meet our expectations? I mean, that was one of the last dangers, was false expectations. I mean, do we not think what we have is good? I mean, have we closed our eyes to life's blessings and God's goodness? Do we take things for granted? Not even take time to count our blessings? A lot of times we're not even aware that we're even doing that. That of going through life like that. It creeps in our thinking. And we got to be aware, because 2 Timothy 3:1-5 express the mindset of false believers. That the Bible says this, but realize this, in the last days difficult times will come. For men will be lovers of self, lovers of money, boastful, arrogant, revilers, disobedient to parents. And what's that next word? Ungrateful, unholy, unloving, irreconcilable, malicious gossips, without self-control, brutal, haters of good, treacherous, reckless, conceited, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, holding to a form of godliness, although they have denied its power. Avoid such men as these. That ungrateful is a mindset of an unbeliever and a false believer. That here's somebody who is not a Christian at all, that they have a form of godliness, but they deny the power thereof. That they're not genuine. There's a Russian novelist that he said this: man only likes to count his troubles, but he does not count his joys. Count your blessings. That's why we often have think through the years of you singing, count your blessings, name them one by one. I mean, there needs to be a consciousness of blessings and to show appreciation of God. I mean, think about what God has done, that we ought to get up in the morning and before we go to bed and just give thanks to God. Not say thank you for everything, but be specific for the blessings of the day. Thank you. Thank you for helping me get through this, and you name the difficult situation. Thank you for thank you for giving me food to eat. I've had 3 meals a day and snacks on top of that. I have a roof over my head. Thank you as well, when we came through this winter, thank you for heat. And now we're going to summer. Thank you for air conditioning. So much He has given to us. Start listing blessings from God. And the reality is that, think about that. Did I deserve this, what I wrote down? Did I deserve what God has given me? No. Everything is by grace from God. So give thanks and show appreciation to Him. Because we ought to enter His gates with thanksgiving, as Psalm 100 verse 4 tells you and I, and His courts with praise. Give thanks to Him, bless His name. Give thanks. We're to enter. This is the only psalm that says a psalm of thanksgiving. It's the only one. A lot of them have give thanks to the Lord. But this is the only one that has that title. That's a psalm for thanksgiving. But enter His courts with thanksgiving and His courts with praise. Give thanks to Him. Bless His name. And I want to end with this. A man lived in a small town where every night the streets were lit by beautiful old-fashioned light lamps. He walked those streets for years to work, the church, to visit friends. He never thought about the lights. He never noticed them. He never thanked anyone for them. One winter storm knocked out the power grid. For 3 nights, the town was completely dark. People stumbled down sidewalks, shops closed early, drivers crept through intersections. Everyone felt the weight of that darkness. On the 4th night, the lights finally flickered back on. The man stepped outside and saw the streets glowing once again. And for the first time in his life, he stopped and whispered, "Thank you." Then he said something profound. "I never realized how much those lights meant until I walked without them." And that is the danger. That is the danger of ingratitude. We stop noticing the blessings. We stop appreciating the grace of God. We stop seeing the goodness of God until something shakes us awake. Psalm 100 calls us to enter his courts with thanksgiving because thanksgiving keeps our eyes, it really does, keep our eyes open. Ingratitude, what keeps our eyes shut. It keeps our hearts soft. It keeps us from drifting into entitlement and blindness. Gratitude doesn't just respond to blessings. It helps us see the blessings we've already been walking past for years.